All right, good morning. Thank you all for coming. My name is Bradley Horowitz. I'm Vice President of Photos and Sharing here at Google. And it's my pleasure to welcome Luvvie Ajayi with us this morning. You all know Luvvie. Yeah. I'm going to do a super brief introduction because I actually want her to tell her story. You all know Luvvie. I have to confess, a week ago, I didn't. But a good mutual friend, Lisa Stone, invited me to host this talk, and so I went into a crash course on learning about Luvvie and why she is so prominent in the blogging space. And so I've spent that last week getting to know her work, and I'm super excited and, as I shared in the invite, somewhat nervous to be up here because she tells it like it is. And it's pretty clear I'm part of the problem. So with that, Luvvie, please, let's welcome her.
No, that's hilarious.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming. I know you're bouncing around the whole country, and we're glad you had a chance to stop at Google.
Had to do it.
Have you ever been here before?
No, this is my first time on Google's campus.
Oh, well, I hope you get a chance to meet people and look around.
I heard about the epic slides you guys have.
We have slides, we have weird bikes, we have food, you know, we'll treat you right. It's going to be fun. Okay. So I want to start. I think most people here know it, but for posterity and for the videotape, tell us your story. I mean, who are you? How did you get to this chair?
By being a professional troublemaker. That's how I got to this chair. I'm a writer, I'm a speaker, I'm a techie, and I have been blogging for 13 years. I started blogging in 2003. I was in college, and I was peer pressured into doing it because my friends were like, you should start a weblog. And I was like, okay. So I went to Xanga.com and started a web, and I started a blog.
That's not Zynga, that's Xanga, right?
Xanga. Okay, remember Xanga, like next to Friendster and everything?
Right.
And I started a blog, and I was talking about college life and all my randomness and shenanigans, and who I was beefing with that day. Nothing interesting, and I have my college career chronicled, which for good and all bad. I read it, and I was like, this is awful. When I graduated from college, I deleted that blog, and I was like, I'm gonna start something new, and I go to Blogspot, fire up this new blog, called it Luvvie's Random Rants, and I was talking about all things pop culture, television, anything I felt like talking about, but not myself anymore. So that's how blogging for me started, and it basically took on a life of its own.
And you were born in Africa, grew up in Chicago. Tell us
Yeah,
that
so I was born in Nigeria, and when I was 9, we moved.
Are you guys shouting for Nigeria or Chicago?
Right,
Well,
yes,
okay.
Nigeria.
All right.
So we moved to Chicago when I was 9. Nobody told me we were moving. I thought we were going on vacation. And then I started school, and I was like, oh, this means we're staying. Oh. And it was a big culture shock for me because I went from never having to be the new girl. Like, my best friend was the niece of the person who owned the private school I went to. I'd been going to that school since I was 2, so walking in the room and seeing people who didn't look like me and having to reintroduce myself and basically take on a new persona was a huge shock to my system. But yeah, I had this accent too. Well, no, not this accent actually. I had a major Nigerian accent, and I ended up I lost it consciously by mimicking my classmates.
Right.
And like trying to repeat what they were saying and how they were saying it, and then by high school, my accent was mostly gone.
Right.
Yeah.
She thinks it's gone anyway.
Right. Right. You're like, no, I hear it. You're super Nigerian. Yeah.
So do you think that experience of sort of being a transplant at 9 years old and being different informs some of who you are and your ability to sort of stand outside of things and tell it like it is? Is that part of why you're you?
Well, yeah. So the tell it like it isness that is me is my Nigerianness in its true essence. Like, Nigerians, we're not a great filtering people, okay? We're not the ones who are like, oh, let me make sure I code it in all types of nice things. We just say what we feel. Like, if you come to my family dinner, we spend the whole time laughing at each other. Like, somebody will walk in wearing a sweater that's not cute, and somebody will always be like, why do you have that on? And it's just how we function. And in my writing is essentially who I am in real life in in print, and because I want people who know me to read my work and be like, okay, I actually hear her voice, that's exactly her. So how I write very much translates to who I am.
That's interesting. And in your youth, from like 9 through high school and things like that, were you extroverted, class clown? Like, do you feel like, you know, before, in the pre-blogging, pre-college years, like what was that like for you?
I have been the class clown forever. This person that you see is who I was in high school. Like, I still have the same friends that I did in high school, and we were just a goofy group of people. We'll be in the hallway just acting a fool, or, you know, playing spades in the lunchroom, and just spend all the time laughing. And basically, my group of friends are a really good reflection of who I am. Like, you think I'm funny, you come to brunch with us and you'll be in tears because none of them have behavior or sense. So it's just how I've been, and being able to have it translate to my writing has been great, because literally I have these friends who've known me for 20 years, and people were like, oh, how did you find your voice? And I was like, do you see them? That's me. So it's not even a matter of me having to find my voice. It's me just growing it up. Yeah.
So you went to University of Illinois.
Yes.
And I love how she drops like 13 years, like that's a long time in tech and stuff like that.
It is.
You know, way before you got there, the web browser was invented there.
Internet Explorer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Mosaic.
That's our claim to fame.
Yeah.
We're very proud
Mark
of that in
Andreessen
Illinois.
and,
Yeah.
My wife went to school there too.
Oh yeah, like it's one of the things they tell you when you go to orientation.
Okay.
And they're like, at Illinois, we invented. I was like, impressive. I will come here. Yes.
Cool.
This has changed everything for me. I must be here. Yes.
And you got into blogging while at college, and so that,
Yeah.
like, do you think that's how you had access? Like, how did you even come to do that?
So I've always liked just computers. I took like computer type classes in school. I was a person who actually took an Excel class for fun. So for me, I've always kind of seen the value of computers and all these types of software. But I was also the person who started infusing social media into the work that I was doing. Like, I've been an early adopter of most platforms. And blogging was just another thing that I was kind of an early adopter at. Because when I started blogging, it was just playing on the internet. But I was doing it because I thought it was fun. How I've been approaching technology since I had to go to the library to get my email. My first email account was a Hotmail account. And I think it was like vet at Hotmail. It was just like, but then when we had AOL, and you know, so I've seen the evolution of the internet grow, and it's been really cool, but I've always found it valuable.
So that first phase, you said you were sort of blogging your college experience, but then you deleted the whole thing.
Yeah.
Do you still have a copy, or?
I do.
Okay.
In its
So do
Comic
we.
Sans fonts
We've
glory.
got that in Google Cache.
No!
No, I'm just kidding.
Right, like, no! Oh, yeah, no, like, I had Comic Sans font and everything, and it was like, it was just awful.
And it's not up online right now?
No.
Okay.
I think I like actually was like, okay, legit deleted. But before I deleted the blog, I like copied and pasted every single post into a Word document, and the Word document is giant because it's 3 years of me in college being a fool, being like, oh, this is my roommate. I didn't really like her that time.
So that's interesting because you're so out there and so vulnerable and honest about things. Have you posted things that you regret or go back and delete or edit? Like, what's it like having that out there? Because these days, once you put something out there, it's out there. Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing is about blogging for so long, the good and the bad thing is it chronicles your growth as a human being and as a thought, somebody who thinks about the world. And so there are things that I wrote in 2009 that I would never write today because I vehemently disagree with myself. That I'm like, no, that was wrong, you shouldn't. But some of those things I keep it up to remind myself of where I came from and who I was in that moment. And like, even thinking about high school essays that I won, I won like 2 major essay contests in high school, writing an essay on whether people should receive reparations. And my stance was, no, you didn't do that. Why do you get reparations? And I won essay contest, and I read the essay, and I was like, God, that's terrible. No. But it's really good to still have the record of who you were, because you see how you've grown, how you've changed, how your thought has changed. College changed everything about my politics and how I look at the world at large. So who I was before college is completely different from who I am now in terms of my beliefs.
And I guess how much of what you do for yourself, and how much do you do for others? You know, it sounds like there's a little bit of both.
A little bit of both, but I try to do most of it for myself.
I think that's why you're so appealing, actually.
Well, because my whole thing is, okay, one, I'm not writing in an echo chamber, so the idea that I'm just writing for myself is false, but I am a writer because if I don't write, the words kind of stay with me. So like I'm the person who's taking a nap on a plane writing blog posts too at the same time, which is completely weird. But I wake up with an entire post in my head already, and I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. So in that way, I'm writing for myself, but also I'm writing for people to consume it and hopefully change hearts and minds, because I'm also not trying to write to preach to the choir all the time, because it's like, at that point, what's the point? So it's a combination.
Mm-hmm. So you're an early technology adopter, you know,
Yeah.
early on Blogspot, early with blogging. Are you keeping up? Like, where are you at on vlogging, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter? You know, like, are there enough hours in the day to sort of?
No, there are not enough hours in the day, and I'm officially feeling like the oldie in tech, because.
Well, I mean, 13 years.
13 years, come on, veteran. Like, but there are certain platforms I cannot get with, even though I've tried, and I'm a digital strategist and I can see the value in them. But me personally, myself, and I personally, I have trouble infusing it into my daily. Snapchat is one of them. I have tried, you guys. Snapchat, so here's the thing that I have a problem with Generation Millennia and Generation Social Media, which I'm a very firm part of, is we feel like everything we do is interesting, and it's not. So like people spend all day on Snapchat telling you exactly what they did in every moment of their day. And I'll log into Snapchat and I'll just be like, you know what, today's the day I'm gonna give it a try. And I'm gonna scroll through. And people are walking to the bus like, yes, I'm walking to the bus stop. Okay, and then the filters are killing me softly, you guys. Like the filters, the flower filter, the face, I'm just like, why does everybody look like a cartoon right now? So I have a Snapchat account, but I log into it like once a month, and I think I've Snapchatted twice total. And I do actually have a Snapchatable life, because I'm in these random rooms because I call myself Forrest Gump. I do all these interesting things.
That's you?
Totally. Right, like, can you believe it? But it's like, you know what? Catch me on Instagram, catch me on Twitter, I'm on there, catch me on Facebook. To add Snapchat to it, to catch a moment by moment thing of my day is just a lot.
Yeah. And what about vlogging or YouTube or, you know?
I have actively rejected YouTube.
Why?
Yup,
Yes.
I have. Yup, I said it. Like, at Google. I've made it a point not to be on YouTube because I don't like the community on YouTube.
Well, this is something I wanted to talk about, because social media has tons of upside. It is part of why you're here today and part of why we know about you. But it's also a place where there's a lot of hate and a lot of misinformation and filter bubble. And I want to talk about that experience. So, you know, we're heartbroken you've rejected YouTube wholesale. Most of the people who aren't here today are working on that and fixing it as we speak. So we'd like you to give it a try tomorrow or next week. But, you know, what is your experience, both good and bad? Have you been trolled? Have you been doxxed? Have you been, you know, harmed by social media personally? And how should we, as owners of some of the services that people use, think about what we can do to, without getting into censorship and sort of, you know, repressing people's feelings, how do we create safe environments for people?
So, okay, so my decision to not do YouTube has been, one, because I hate editing stuff. And again, I don't want to just me talking.
So you're lazy is the...
Lazy is part of it. Oh, absolutely. But then the second part is I hate the community on there, because that community is so full of hate. Because at one point it was where you can actually comment anonymously.
Yep.
And what that spurs is keyboard courage of people who decide that since they are a number in a system, they can say whatever they want as opposed to it being attached to their name. So a lot of my friends are YouTube stars and like people who've built their following on YouTube, like Francesca Ramsey. And I used to see the comments they would get all day, every day, and to avoid the comments, they would have to sit there moderating it, either themselves, which of course triggers all types of like trauma, and or they just actively just be like, I threw up a video, I just never go back into my comment section. And for me, the power of the internet is connecting with people. And I think that's really important. So I was like, you know what, I'm a writer. I prefer to write, I'll be writing. Y'all catch me there. I don't want to do videos yet. And I know YouTube started fixing some of that. I was never really recruited to come back into the fold.
Well, consider this an invitation.
An invitation to come back into the fold. Like I was using my Vimeo channel because I was like, you know what, I need to store some video somewhere. So I just didn't feel like YouTube was a place. Now, in terms of the hate online and trolling, so as a black woman, well, as a woman is one, as a black person is another, as a black woman is another. The type of feedback that we get on social media is completely different from everyone else. So this was tested out by people on Twitter actually, where they did like a week where they exchanged avatars. So black women and white men decided to do this experiment and exchange avatars and see how the difference in your avatar affects how the responses you get are. And the white men who had the black women avatars for the week were stunned by the type of vitriol they got for simple stuff that they were saying. For me, as a side-eye sorceress and a professional shader, I am lucky to not receive some of the hate that a lot of people get. Because here's the thing, I can beat you at that game. Like I've spent all my life being shady. I could do this, but I've been fortunate.
The trolls are afraid of you is the problem.
The trolls don't come at me as much as they come at other people. I will say that.
Yeah.
But one thing that I've loved about my social media platforms is people saying that my community reflects me, which is king compliment. On no matter where I am on the internet, I like to keep my spaces clear, full of hate, and free of hate, and as safe as a space as you can get in a public domain. So my audience is also very protective of the spaces that I've created. So if any type of hate creeps through, they handle it before I even get there. Because they understand that this is one of the few places you can go and actually read the comments. So how everyone else tells you never read the comments, you want to read the comments on my post, on my Facebook, on my Twitter, on anywhere that I am, because my audience is super smart, super thoughtful, and they've managed to maintain a space that is actually good, and it shows the best of humanity as opposed to the rest of the internet, which kind of shows awfulness.
So I want to talk about filter bubble, this
Yes.
concept. You mentioned you don't just like to preach to the choir, right?
Right.
That's part of what you do, but you also want to reach people and change people's minds. This morning, my wife showed me a site called friendswholiketrump.com. I don't know if you've seen this, but it actually exposes your Facebook friends who've actually liked Trump. So I did a bit of unfriending this morning.
Amen.
I had only, I'm proud to say, out of 1,000 or so friends, I had 8. And you know, most of whom I either didn't know who they were or hadn't spoken to them in 30 years.
Yep.
I did grow up in Michigan, which can have little pockets of, you know, purple state, sort of. But I did ask myself, you know, am I perpetuating this filter bubble? Is my feed now going to be filled with stuff that I already believe? And am I not getting exposure? Should I have had more curiosity? Is like, why on earth would people I know support a candidate who let's just say I can't get behind?
Who was a walking Cheeto.
You can say it.
The worst. Okay, so here's the thing. I tell people off jump, like, my social media platforms are not democracies, they're dictatorships. I will delete, I will block, I will report as spam at will, okay? And feel no guilt about it. Because here's the thing is, that's not a filter I really even want to be a part of. To be like clearing your space of Trump supporters who, that's one of the few things that I draw the line. It's like, oh, we can't be friends. Off jump, okay? Like, there's no conversation here. You support him, because supporting him means you support and tolerate hate and misogyny and Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and anti-woman, and it's just anti-everything that is not straight white male, and it's a problem. So you deleting those people, I don't think it's necessarily creating a filter bubble, because here's the thing. What do you learn from them besides what you already know, which is that hate does exist in the world, and even educated people who are somewhat sensible and logical can still tolerate awful things and people who perpetuate that. And I don't have the capacity to even do that. Like, I am not a mediator. I'm not the person you walk up to just like, oh my God, let me see both sides. Oh no, I'm very much biased about everything. So yeah.
I've heard you talk about the difference between journalism and writing.
Yeah.
You consider yourself a writer, and it sort of speaks to this biased and proud sort of attitude you have. Can you talk a little bit, we at Google, we have things like Google News, and even our search results, we work very hard to make them fair. And talk about journalism versus writing, and maybe not only the role you have in that spectrum, but where should Google sit? Should we be opinionated, or?
So I do call myself a writer and not a journalist, because I feel like as a journalist, you do have to maintain some level of objectivity, and just be like, you know what? I'm not always gonna choose sides. I don't know how to do that. I'm the person who can't write. I can't write anything but op-eds. I can give you, but they'll be fact-based. So for me, I give myself the responsibility of making sure I'm double-checking to make sure I'm not passing on fake news, making sure that my opinion is based on some fact that I heard. So that is important. As a company, I understand if Google wants to maintain like neutral ground, so it shows both sides. But then as a person of opinion, and I think as a leader in all things, Google might need to one day step up and say, actually, this is the lane that we pick. Like if somebody goes into Google and wants to find a way to join a hate group, I feel like it should be a little bit more difficult for them to find it, to find that type of information, because essentially you can serve up the information to them on a platter and be like, just because we're being impartial, but what does that do for the world? And how does that impact the betterness of the world? And I think Google is a company that cares about that in some way. So to make it that easy, I feel like would be a mistake.
Yep. The people that aren't working on YouTube are thinking about that right now. But it is, you look at Google, it's pretty clear we have a very diverse workforce. Just looking out at the audience, I'm kidding.
He was like, I'm bullshitting.
I wish this was representative of our workforce. Unfortunately, this is a bias.
Shout out to Bradley for that.
So, but we are working on it.
Yeah.
And, I think, we're very much in a listening and learning mode. And as we try to address this, like any advice on that front? How do we actually create the people who are creating these products? How can they more represent the world and the audiences?
Google and other tech companies have got to start trying harder, even harder than you are now. Because here's the thing is, I feel like every company needs to reflect the world as it is, for the greater good of that company too. Because more diverse voices in the room, your products are gonna be even better, because you're getting all types of people being like, have you thought about this? Nah, that doesn't work, what about this? And I think it's in your best interest to get you some more color, get you some more people of different backgrounds who can be in a room and be like, oh, okay, this is what I think, and then not get shut out by their coworkers who are white. Like even recently I was reading an article about how the women in the White House in the Obama administration have formed like this Voltron. When they're in meetings, if one woman says an idea, another woman repeats it, and then somebody else repeats it who's a woman, just so the idea is not given to a man. Because we've been in enough rooms where we say something and everyone's like, eh, and then the dude says it and they were like, great idea. You're like, word, like I didn't just say that 4 times? So in that type of a way, I think tech companies need to, one, it's not even necessarily them having a conscious bias to be like, I'm just only gonna hire white people. That's not it. We tend to engage with people who are in close proximity with us, people who look like us, who are like in our immediate circle. So those are the people we end up telling they have job opportunities, and those are people who end up basically applying. What needs to happen is the very pointed and focused attempt to go outside of that proximity. Like, go to places where you haven't been. Ask people who don't look like the executive team. And honestly, get some black people on your executive team too. Y'all need that. But I think it's a process that needs to start now, and people need to be very, very prioritizing about it. Like, it shouldn't be one of those things that's like, if it happens, it happens. It needs to be like a focus.
Yeah.
Because in what, 2030 or 2040, there's going to be no ethnic majority in the country. So it behooves Google and Facebook and Twitter and all of them, Apple, like everybody needs to start making it a point to find, and it's not a quota system. It's not you being like, well, we need 4 more black people, we need 4 Latinos, 4 Asians. No, you want to find people who are qualified, and they're out there. Like, people say, I can't find black techies, I can't find Latino techies. There are Twitter lists of people who have 500 that says black techies at the top. So we're out here where we exist, and we
do have some competence in search, so we ought to be
I think so, okay? Like, Google is like the search king of the entire universe, okay? Not even Earth. There are probably aliens using Google. So you have no excuse not to be able to find the people who are good.
Yeah, cool. So in the spirit of putting us on the spot,
yeah,
me in particular, I want to share something you recently wrote. Another day, another hashtag. White people, you got to get to work now. About the killings of black people by law enforcement. You say, white people, I'm talking to you. This is your problem to fix. Y'all got some work to do, because this system that y'all keep on privileging from, you've got to help us dismantle it. Because those of us who are black and brown, we have tried. You created this robot, and it is yours to deactivate. My skin folk don't have the passcode. This is your monster to slay.
Word.
Yeah. So, for those of us that agree, where do we start? How do we become better at helping slay the monster?
Yeah, you gotta slay the dragon, man. It's a multi-step process, and I think it comes from, we can change policy all day, every day, but if policies change, but the hearts of the people who are in these spaces to enforce it don't, nothing happens. So the real deep belief that it is the job of white people to fix racism, because if we could have fixed it by now, we would have done it, and we have tried. So one, listening. I've seen enough conversations where people are like, here's how I felt when this issue happened, and somebody walks in being like, well, maybe you're just looking at it the wrong way. I was telling you how I felt about it, but here you are trying to argue me down about my opinion and my feelings, which feelings are valid. So one, listening. Two, when these things happen, a lot of times people say, you know, I don't know what else to say at this point, it's getting even worse. If you don't know what to say, amplify the voices of those who do. So, you know, lending your platform to people who are able to say, you know what, this is how it's affected me, this is what I think we need to do. So lending your platforms to black and brown voices. I also think people need to put their money where their hearts are. People have money. Silicon Valley has money. At the minimum, help donate to anti-racist organizations and people who are actively doing the work to fix it. People who need the resources and who need to get in the room, that's important. And then some of us have all these platforms to speak up. Speak up, use it, because here's the thing, I don't have a job. I could say something. Nobody's gonna be like, Luvvie, you're fired. So it is in my best interest to use my voice because I don't have anything to lose there. And also, one thing that we need to do, because it's like right here, it's lowest common denominator, is our friends and our family members. When they say hateful things about people who are not in our group, who are marginalized, we have to say something. And you know what we do when we see some stupid stuff in Facebook? We'll scroll past and roll our eyes and be like, oh, I hate the fact that they just said that, but we never confront it. So that person thinks it's okay. So even across the dinner table when somebody's saying something hateful, it is in that moment you have to let them know you can't tolerate it. Because that means if you let it happen and you say nothing, you're saying it is fine. It should happen just like that. Huffing and puffing is not enough. Actively being like, hey, that's actually not an okay statement. Here's why you're wrong. And after I wrote that piece, I actually got a lot of notes in the 2 weeks afterwards from people who've been like, I've actually taken that on. One of my friends emailed me and said her husband's father always says something racist every time. And he just scrolls past it and shakes his head in Facebook, and he's like, oh, that irritates me. After I wrote that piece, his father put some like racist joke up, and he sends him a 3-paragraph email about how that was not okay. And she was like, I just want to say thank you because he told me to let you know that the reason he did that was because he read your piece and he realized that he can't be quiet anymore about it. So even small things, we don't all have to start nonprofit organizations. We don't have to be the ones marching. But we can do stuff in our everyday lives that actually can move the needle just a little bit.
Yeah. That was some amazing practical advice. I wasn't actually expecting that much actionable stuff that I think all of us can do in this room and in this company and in this world. I know for me, one of the challenges was sort of coming to grips with how much I had to learn. And for me, a lot of it was really in taking this unconscious bias training where I sort of walked in there sleepwalking, like, not expecting to be rattled or shaken by what happened. But what was really revealed was a lot of the societal conditioning that had sort of, even me, a good guy who's trying, to be part of the solution, there's a lot of deep work we have to do.
Right.
It was very humbling in a lot of ways. It's sort of like the last thing I wanted to do once that part of me was out there was sort of get up and pretend to be part of the solution when I understood I was part of the problem.
Right.
And I think the answer is sort of both. When I first started really concentrating my team on some issues around diversity and inclusion, I reached out to a friend of mine who's been doing this work for really 30 plus years. And she was sort of like, welcome to the conversation. It was, there are professionals, there are people who have spent careers and lifetimes thinking about these problems. And I know a lot of us are waking up for the moment for the first time, but it's important to sort of plug in. And I think your suggestion even to just give resource, whether that's money, time, technology platforms, to those people who are professionals and have actually spent a lifetime thinking about some of these things is really important for those of us that are quickly catching up. So,
I think part of the thing is, when you start talking about race and you start talking about like responsibility of white people, a lot of times people feel accused, like they're personally the ones who are being racist. But here's the thing that people have to understand is privilege, no matter what it is your privilege is. Like I have a bunch of privileges. I have class privilege. I have sexual orientation privilege. I have gender identity privilege, religion privilege. So there's certain things that I need to understand that in all these systems, because I am a part of it and I benefit from it, I am a part of the problem. And it's not Luvvie, you did this one thing that was wrong to this person. It's you are part of the system, that even though you might not have contributed personally to, you still have to help fix it. Because you're in a position where you can influence stuff. And I can be in a room where I'm gonna assume that most people in the room are Christians. And that gives me a safe space to talk about my religion. But if somebody's there who's Muslim, and they feel like they're not safe because they're in this space, it's my job as somebody who is of the majority group to make them feel comfortable and welcome. Like, I can't just be like, well, it's not my fault because I ain't saying nothing bad about Muslims today, so that ain't got nothing to do with me. No, so I think it's really important to use these privileges to basically help marginalized people. And also, part of what we start learning about privilege and our space in the world, the space that we take up in the world, is that we are lucky. One, we've done nothing to be in these spaces a lot of times. Like, I was born Christian. I've never been poor. So for me, it's like, okay, I can't take credit for that. I can't be like, well, I earned it. I didn't. I didn't. It gave me a lot of things that I worked from, but also you have to unlearn a lot of things. Like you realize that we've been programmed so well, then in the process of fixing it means you have to unlearn stuff, as in dump that out your head. That is not what the world is really about, and that's the really hard part of unlearning everything you've known for how many years you've been on this earth. So you just kind of gotta commit to it. It's not gonna be easy. It's an ego. It's a drop kick to your ego when you realize you're a part of the problem. It is. It's like, damn, I didn't know I was that person. You are. Now that you know that you are that person, how do you not become that person? How do you make sure somebody else is not hurt by your personhood? And one thing I actually wrote about in my book was, has anyone here heard about the privilege exercise? Oh, I feel like every company in Silicon Valley, actually every company in general, needs to make this happen. So the privilege exercise changed my life and how I looked at the world. And I was a counseling center paraprofessional when I was in college, trained to be a peer counselor, but the whole first semester was us learning about who we are and the space we take up. And literally, we spent a whole 6 months talking about ourselves and who we are and unpacking it. So one thing we did was the privilege exercise. So everyone starts in the same line, okay? You start in the same line, and they make a statement. You either step forward or step back. So a statement would be something like, step forward if you've never had to worry about somebody mispronouncing your name. People step forward. Step back if you've never worried about, if you've sometimes worried about where your next meal is coming from. Somebody steps back. You know, step up if you can marry the person you love. So it's a series of questions. Sometimes it's like 20 questions, sometimes it's 50. At the end of the privilege exercise, they say stop and look around the room and see where you are in relation to other people. So sometimes I found myself higher to the front than I actually imagined I would be. And some of my classmates in the back, and I was like, wow, you're behind me? And it gives you the perspective of understanding, like, okay, so the privilege exercise, you get to figure out, wow, I'm behind a lot of people. I never would have thought that. Or I'm actually way luckier than I thought I was. And it teaches you about who the people you're around are, and also some of their struggles. Because some of my classmates who were white girls were behind me. And I was like, I wonder why. So we got to unpack it. I feel like it's really important for companies to do this. Because give your employees a chance to understand where they are in the world and what they fit in. Because sometimes in these rooms, the people of color, the people who are different gender oriented, LGBT people, might not feel like they have room to even step up and say something to you, because they might get shut down. And the people who are saying things never understand that they take up a lot of room all the time and don't give room for other people. So it's a way to kind of recalibrate and get folks to understand that I might need to either shut up more, or I need to step up more, or I need to like advocate for more people, or I need to be the one that's like advocating for myself more. I think it would be good for Google to do it for a couple of people.
Wow, that's a great exercise.
Yeah.
So what I want to do, we've got a couple mics up here, and we do want to make this interactive. So as you think of your questions, while you're doing that, I want to invite Luvvie to, if you're willing and open to it, maybe read a section of your book, do a little reading for us.
Yes, I can do a reading, and I'm trying to figure out, should I do one from, okay, so my book is broken up into 4 sections: life, culture, social media, and fame. Now, each section, so the life is like full of shenanigans. The culture section, I talk about like racism, homophobia, religion. Social media section, I'm talking about hashtag I hate your hashtag abuse. Facebook is my favorite soap opera. Dumbed down news. How to succeed at business failure. Real G's move in silence. So, what section would you like me to read from? Culture. All right, let's do it.
That was pretty unanimous.
All right. So I actually just basically gave you a rundown in the, let's see, I think I'll do religion. Yeah. I have a chapter on rape culture in here. I went in. I'm trying to see what I haven't touched on. Privilege, racism. Okay. So I wrote a piece of my racism chapter while It was like a week after the Charleston shooting, and it was that night a church had been set on fire in South Carolina. And I was moved to write because I was just like so angry. In Charleston, South Carolina, a small Bible study group was praying to the Lord on an otherwise uneventful Wednesday at Emmanuel AME Church, the oldest black church in the South. A white supremacist walked in, pretending to want to pray with them, and then pulled a gun out and murdered 9 black worshipers in cold blood. It was an invasion of a place of refuge, a violation of a literal safe space, and definitive proof that there is still a war on black people in America. Nowhere is safe for us, and the work that has been done over half a century to get us closer to equality has regressed, and it feels like we're back to where we started. And now another one of our churches is burning, and this was 2005. America's treating black people like vermin, and it's hard not to feel like we're unwanted and unsafe. It's open season on black people, and that was not some lone gunman who walked into Emmanuel AME. He represents the ongoing commitment to keep us in our place, a violent reminder that we are not safe. We're not safe in the streets, in our homes, at the park, or at church. And I'm fucked up about it because this was supposed to be history, not the present. And I feel the anger from the top of my head as it reverberates down to my toes. This rage makes my skin burn. I feel the fire in my bones. This is racism at its worst. It's ugly, demented, and vile. It also permeates every fiber of what the United States is made of. And it's what's built the foundation of this country. It's truly exhausting, and I'm not sure if I'm thankful for the undeniable proof that racism is still around us, or wishful for the days when we could be tricked into thinking things were not so bad. But racism is not just random individuals burning churches and black people being gunned down the streets. It is a system of oppression that is so deep and omnipresent that it seeps into every single aspect of our lives. And it is as American as apple pie drizzled with canned cheese topped with French fries. The red stripes on the flag are really the blood of black and brown people. And many centuries after the country's creation, these stains still have not faded. And let's pause here to say that racism in America is as stupid as hell. Racism and prejudice anywhere is dumber, but it makes no sense because it's just absurd. The United States of America is a country founded on the labor and literal bodies of black and brown people who were minding their own business when white folks came forth to kill and exploit them. This is a place that was discovered by a dude who didn't know how to read a map. So he just showed up on some shore, thought he was in India, and then proceeded to plant a flag and go, ta-da! No, what Christopher Columbus needed was a compass and a clue for being aggressively mediocre, but he has a federal holiday in his honor. He showed up on someone else's property and claimed it as his because he didn't know what it was. This country started off all the way wrong and continued in the same fashion, okay? I feel like Chris needed Google Maps, okay? Like, you're in the wrong place, sir. This is not India. Hot mess. And we celebrate him. We celebrate him. This is so American. And then Chris slaughtered Native Americans, wiping out whole tribes, pillaging the people, and called it Thanksgiving. And then to add to the mess, the dude bros realized they didn't even have the ability to build dope shit on their own. So they went to Africa and captured black people and then brought them here to be their slaves after killing millions on the journey here. Because if you want to out-terrible yourself, you stuff millions of human beings inside chips, refuse to feed them, let them lie in their own filth, and then let them die in droves. So not only did you steal someone else's home and then kill them when they showed you kindness, you went elsewhere and then did some more stealing, this time of actual people. And you forced them to come to your stolen house to do your work for you. I mean, you're welcome for this too long didn't read version of imperialism in America, but this is why I should teach, okay? I wouldn't do any worse than current textbooks like the ones in Texas that use the words workers instead of slaves. In the section about the transatlantic slave trade, they called them workers. As if black people were at a career fair in Africa where we submitted resumes and asked to be beaten and starved and have our families broken in exchange for a journey across the ocean with no money. Like, this is not LinkedIn. Why? We're not workers, okay? So my point is that the United States does not have a legitimate history of integrity and fairness. It's been run by villains that make Disneys look like saints. Racism is not a byproduct as much as it's the foundational stock in the American soup, and this is why black people are still fighting to be recognized in our full humanity. The success of the country has been based on our oppression, so of course it is forever fresh out of dams to give about black lives. And we are left to grieve for those we've lost to the grubby hands of white supremacy. We rage about the perpetual cycle of mourning we find ourselves in, and we wonder what we need to do to be secure in our own skins.
Wow. Powerful ideas, but also powerful writing. That's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, questions from you. We have 2 mics up there. Googlers aren't shy, usually.
Right, don't be shy.
We have a lot of practice. We have this event called TGIF, which we hold on Thursday, of course. And we have these mics up there, and people are always asking our founders and leadership pretty much anything, telling it like it is. It is a great tradition. So, questions?
Thank you. So, first, Queen, just want to honor you and thank you for existing and being here to share and help lift us all up. Also want to acknowledge I wish this room was completely full because you deserve all of the 60,000 Googlers listening to you. So there's that. But I actually do have a question. My question is, as Google works on trying to continue to diversify, so we actually have people working here that reflect the people we serve around the world, how can we also change the culture so people are allowing us to be ourselves? I feel like what you said earlier about speaking straight, not padding things with a lot of sugar, it really resonated with me. I think one of the things I find hardest to be here is that I need to put so much sugar on the front and the back end that I can't even call it a sugar sandwich, it's like a cake. So how can we, as a people and as allies, help people understand that it's not the same lens. You can't bring in all these different cultures, Africans, African Americans, Latinos, Filipinos, anyone who's not white, and expect us to act white in a company that is majorly white.
So communication is cultural. That's one thing that I think a lot of people of color struggle with in companies like this. Communication is cultural. For me, I'm a very direct person. If I need to send you an email, I'm gonna be like, hey, what's up? So here's what I need from you. People prefer, hey, so I hope your day was going well. I was wondering if you could possibly do this for me. Who has that time? Why I gotta like layer it with 1,500? Can I just get to the point? And then people were like, well, you were kind of short in email because I asked you a question as opposed to like went through a 3-paragraph diatribe about how are you doing, girl? Wondering, girl, how was your weekend? Honestly, people need to understand that different communications skills and different ways people talk in email is not an affront to you as a person. Like, if I was to send you a 2-paragraph email because I am on the go, that's not me being short with you. That's me being on the go. And I think a lot of black people end up being the on-the-go type style, and their coworkers end up being like, I felt like that was very short of you. Honestly, there needs to be a little bit more, people need to get out their feelings. That's important. Get out your feelings as a coworker. Like if somebody sends you an email and you're like, you know what, that felt kind of short, you can ask them, be like, hey, are you okay? As opposed to like, I hear a lot of passive aggressive stuff happening. People, get out your feelings. If I sent you a 2-sentence email because I need something, it doesn't mean I don't want to know how well you're doing. It means in that moment it's quick. So I think Google might want to do some more different communication styles. Ooh, you know one thing that helps? Okay, so there's this website called 16personalities.com that allows you to do a personality test. And if you work closely with any team, have everybody on the team do this personality test. It'll break it down and be like, okay, so it'll tell you exactly how that person who sits next to you communicates. They're the person who's always on the go. They're very direct. It'll even break it down to the commander. There's the commander, the diplomat, the mediator. So that helps too for you to understand how your coworkers like to receive information, how they pass it on to. It is not an affront to you. Learn who you're like working next to, and then, as opposed to people having to like temper everything and put them in sugar cakes. Who has time, you guys? Come on, let's do more work and send less emails. That's also important. Stop emailing people for everything, Jesus.
I think part of the problem, we're all commanders, but.
But what happens if one commander is like, oh man, I just got commanded too hard?
Okay, another question.
Sure. So, Luvvie, again, just to mimic Sarah, some of her comments. Just thank you for coming here and making time for us.
My pleasure.
So, my name's Howard, and I think I'd be really curious to hear about. So, there's various domains of types of work that we could be doing, right, to kind of fight institutionalized racism and kind of address the racial climate in general in this country. And so you can send emails, you can protest, you can strategize about policy change, you can mentor, you can kind of just be even just a shoulder for folks to cry on and mourn. And so there's all this diversity of different things that we could be doing, right? And I think society kind of conditions us to maybe want to do some things more than others, because maybe some of these things might be more risky or challenging. So for example, for many of us, maybe protesting and getting pepper sprayed in the eyes is kind of like, I don't want to do that. But like maybe if you say like I can volunteer at an Oakland Impact Hub, sure, I'll do that. That sounds reasonable, right? Given the problems that we have, given how minimal amount of the workers there are for us to address the problems, what would you say is like the most important, I guess, prioritized domain of type of work that we really need to focus on in order to get shit done, right? Like there's a ton of different things we can do, and I love the approach of like, oh, just like weigh your talents and gifts and whatever like you're really good at, that's what you should do.
I think there's no one thing to do. It needs to be a multi-layered approach. Knowing what you're good at and where you can fit in, though, makes a difference. So I already know I'm not going to be the person on the front line getting pepper sprayed. I'm not about that life. I give props to the people who are. My job in this movement, if anything, is to tell the stories. And
I'm not good at that either.
Right, I'm just not built for that. And which means like the people who do that are actively putting their bodies on the line. And for them, we owe them to make sure they're supported and the work that they're doing is not in vain. Because if they're standing on these front lines getting pepper sprayed, it better be for a reason. And we better be working to make sure that doesn't keep happening to them. So it means if your job is to write policy, you are the policy person. Yes, make sure that people who are in Capitol Hill are changing laws. If your job is to tell stories, tell these stories and make sure people are understanding what's happening in these streets, what's really happening, not what the media is reporting. If your job is, if you just have so much money, you don't know what to do with it. Give it to some of these people who can then turn that money into something concrete. So it really comes down to, you don't have to force yourself to do something that's outside the realm of your interest, your passion. What you're good at, whatever that is, you can find a way that's gonna help. So again, find what it is, where you fit in that place, and do it and kick ass in that way. So I already know, I'm not built for the life of being on the front lines. Little, okay? I know. I wouldn't even make it. I am not built for it. So yeah, like you have to support in wherever way you know how, as opposed to you being like, well, I have to be the person protesting. No, you don't. There are amazing people like Black Youth Project 100, which I have to give a shout out to. If you want to know some organizations who are doing amazing work, who are making sure the Chicago Police Department is actually being held accountable, there's Black Youth Project 100, there's Dream Defenders, there's Asada's Daughters. So these are people who you can be giving your money to, who will show where the money's going. Yeah.
Okay, yes, please.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for being here today. When I saw on the calendar you were going to be here, I got super excited because my book club's been talking about your book for the last month. So thank you for being here.
Yes.
My question to you is, how do you get over that first step of fear? I feel like people have voices, they want to say something, but as you alluded to earlier, maybe you don't want to say it in work, you're worried about losing your job, or changing in your world of your friends becoming different. And how do you get over that sense of fear that you have, that you feel like you should be saying something, you want to, but you're worried what you're going to let go of in the process?
Fear is one of those things that fear itself will cripple you from doing whatever it is. And then when you do it and push past it, you understand that you were more afraid of the thing than how it really was. So here's the thing. There are often times when I write a piece that I'll be like, oh my gosh, am I sure I want to publish this? And I'll sit on it, I'll hesitate on it. But every single time I press publish, the response I get lets me know, yes, you're supposed to do that. Because here's the thing. As a person who's thinking about that thing that you want to talk about that's scary, you're probably not the only person thinking about it. You are probably amongst people who are also afraid to say the same thing. But sometimes all it needs is that one person to cut through to be like, hey, I feel like this is wrong, or I feel like this is, and then you'll see the people who's like, finally somebody said it. Okay, I can back her up now. I think it just comes down to pushing past it. If it's important enough for you, say it. You know, you can put it in the sugar cake if that makes it fine in that meeting, but making sure that point is made, because a lot of times people do the things that they don't even realize are harmful, or they don't understand what damage it's doing. and they just need to be called on it to be like, oh, I didn't even know. Okay, you're right. You might have to be the scapegoat to just be like, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it because this is how I feel. This is a valid thing to do, and I feel like it would actually push this conversation forward. You just gotta do it. It's not gonna be like less scary. You're gonna have to be like, I'm scared, shitless, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Okay, guys, I don't think this is a good idea. And even just doing that, you just have to power through it.
I like it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see we have more questions. I think this is the way we're going to do this. Unfortunately, we're out of time, and I know that there are people who need to set up this for lunch. This is also our lunchroom. So we'll take one more question. And she's here. That's what I was going to say is we're going to feed her and show her a Google bike and
Important things,
give
priority.
her a little bit of a tour. So those of you who want to, I think it's okay with you if we have a little private time with you by the side of the stage afterwards. But we'll do one more formal question and then we'll hand this room back over. So one more question, please.
Hi, I first wanted to say thank you. I'm not quite sure what I'm thanking you for, but thank you. And then I'm not sure if I have a question or a statement, but it's two quick things. First, you talked about diversity and Google. I received a question from a friend of mine who said, you work at Google. How did you get that job? And I was just absolutely amazed because I said I applied. And I will say that I'm a high school dropout, never been to college, never taken any technical courses, left high school in the 11th grade, but I have enough confidence to say I'm good, I'm intelligent, I applied. But I think it's a statement is that I think Google needs to give people permission to apply. I think we need to do more reaching out to people and say, hey, I don't care if you're this, I don't care if you're that, apply. We can't just wait for people to come to us because they'll say, that's Google. They don't want me, I'm not good enough. So any advice that you have for Google and all of the people who are working on diversity, I think that would be great because everybody goes, how did you get a job there? And I would love for people that feel that they are confident enough to at least look, at least try, because all you can be told is no. And the other thing is you were talking about racism, and I have been just feeling helpless and watching all of the protests and getting excited about the Justice Department saying, we're going to take this shooting of this innocent or not so innocent black person, and then it turns out that the Justice Department doesn't, the case doesn't go through, they're not charged, and I'm a ranter. Which I might be doing now instead of asking a question. But I had been posting on Facebook about the fact that people sit on the courthouse steps and say, this is not gonna work, we have to do something about it. And we see Beyonce and we see Snoop Dogg and we see Al Sharpton and all of these activists, and they're saying, this is not good, we have to stop this. But then they step back and then they go back to their everyday lives because they have this feeling of helplessness and they don't know what to do next. So a couple of weeks ago, I gathered a bunch of friends that I worked with from a design company, and we did this great big ideation, brainstorm on what we could do, because in my eyes, it has to start within the police department, right? It can't be the police, it can't be the lawyers, it can't be the district attorneys, it has to be the police department to go past that blue line of silence and start telling the other police officers, you know what, I'm not going to testify on your behalf. You were wrong, you shouldn't have done that. And I feel like it has to start from within, but I don't know what to do next. We've got a bunch of ideations. We talked about redesigning the pullover and all of these things, but we're now trying to figure out how to reach other people and how to use our voices and make this great big movement that says it has to start from within the police department, right? I watched an episode of, God, I can't remember the show. Tay Diggs is in it. I can't remember the name of it, but he shot a black guy. They couldn't find the gun, but his partner told him the next day, you know what, I talked to the captain and I backed you up, and it wasn't true. And that was just an example of what happens instead of them saying, no, he was wrong, and I'm not going to stand by him. So we're trying to figure out ways to do that. Any advice so that I can take it to the next step where it's not just a meeting of people who go back to their normal lives and say, oh, we met, but I don't know what to do next.
The first question of so there is something that feels very inaccessible about working at Google. It feels like aspiration as opposed to a reachable thing. So a lot of people don't even know it's an option for them because they just think people who work at Google happen to get like a magic golden ticket and they showed up and they're like, oh my God, you work at Google. It sounds like a legend. They're like, oh man, it's like Charlie Wonka's chocolate factory. Because I mean, this place is a magic, like what? You have slides. I think Google needs to do a better job of making sure that people understand that they actually have a chance to work at Google and they're not just like engineers who get coding things and they're like, oh, you can be a coder. You actually have people do social things at Google. Mm-hmm. I think Google needs to actually make it more accessible. So whether you have people going to more colleges who are like, yo, you don't have to be a hyper geek engineer to work at Google. You can actually apply for like the events coordinator job or the admin assistant job. Or if you are in STEM, you can apply for a job in strategy, in coding. So I'm not sure what outreach you guys are doing, but you might want to do that. I know y'all don't throw a post on Indeed or LinkedIn, but that might help. But it actually would help if people knew that they could get a job at Google and it wasn't some like pie in the sky thing.
Permission to apply.
We are doing a lot of that. I want to just give a shout out to the team. I actually met with them yesterday, and we have a lot of work to do, but there are people at Google. Part of it is just making sure we are where people are, right? Like Mountain View is a little bit like Disneyland in a lot of ways, and we have a great big world out there, and Google is fortunate enough to have offices in a lot of places, and we have to do a lot more outreach, a lot more inviting, a lot more welcoming, and I know that there are teams of people at Google working on that. So.
And I also have to like give Google props because here's the thing, like I know you're constantly being told to do better because you should, but the fact that your leadership is taking it on as an actual thing, not just because you are getting your wig snatched about it, matters. I think it's really good to see people at the top who are saying like, okay, help us figure out what to do. We realize we need to do better, so we're gonna do better. So I have to say props for that because the trickle effect is real, right? Because if leadership didn't care, nothing's gonna change. So I just want to say props to you for that, Bradley.
Okay, on that note.
Did he just blush?
So on behalf of everyone here and Google, thank you not only for coming and visiting us, but the work you do every day, putting yourself out there. It makes a difference, and we're very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. This is so cool.